Welcome to the 101, brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. I'm Michael Morris, my right-hand man, Dr. Ryan Brown. How are you?
Hey, man, welcome back to
Are you serious? I start off on fire, and you're like, hey, buddy.
Hey, man. Hey, buddy.
It's been a couple weeks because we've had some people. Now, you've probably heard reruns out there. I know all the fans of the 101 have heard shows, but we've had some no-shows on us the last couple weeks, but we got somebody electric.
Don't they know that this is like the most popular show in America?
This is the most popular show called the 101 that exists. We are bringing on a good buddy of mine and somebody that is so much like you, Ryan. I can't wait to be ignored as you guys talk to each other.
Oh, okay.
My buddy Bob Gray from Coach Smart Solutions. Bob, how are you?
I am doing well.
The reason I'm excited to have him on is every single week for the last 2 to 3 months, I have heard Bob stand up and give his what we call the elevator
Wait,
pitch.
don't you mean bib?
Yeah, first of all, I can't believe more people don't remember that commercial. Maybe I just memorized, I should phrase that. It was an old Staples commercial where a lady, the secretary had written on all the proposals, bib. And so when the big boss comes over and he's like, Bib, try Bob. And then when they introduce the client who comes in, his name is Bib.
It's actually bib.
Yeah. But every time I've heard him say his name, I let it have been Bib. Now, whether he hears it or not, I have no idea because it's 7:30 in the morning. But Bob, give people a little bit of background. You don't have to give your social security number, but family background, all that. Let people know where you're from.
I am originally from Minnesota, born and raised in Minneapolis.
That explains a lot.
Well, a lot of people believe that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look very Viking-like.
Yes, I am a true Viking fan. That's for sure.
Well, that's your problem. Now, the reason that I know Bob is from the BNI meetings. We've had several people in Grove City, and in fact, this morning, I don't even know if we're supposed to go classify this as BNI. Let's just say we meet at the IHOP with a bunch of people
There you go.
at 7:30 in the morning on
That's
Wednesdays. But give people a little background on you are a life and business coach. Now, Ryan is also a life coach, and he's yet to volunteer his services to me. But tell me what that means.
I can't help you, Michael.
Well, on the business side, I have owned my own business for the last 12 years, and I've made my mistakes, my share, and I want to help other people who want to start their own business to not make the same mistake I made.
That sounds very open-ended. Ryan, I know that you're looking at him like, what mistakes did you make, Bob?
Well, it is fascinating, though, because I think we've talked about this before on the show quite a bit, that, some of the best teachers, some of the best coaches, some of the best business owners and leaders are people who had failed a lot of times, but not only that, had maybe leaders or coaches or mentors that didn't really do it the right way. For instance, I know a lot of teachers that win the Teacher of the Year award, they always say, well, I didn't have a great experience in school, so I was determined to become a teacher so kids had it, kind of better than I did, and had a better experience, I should say, than I had. And so I don't know if you mean something to that extent, or just in your life.
I'm excited because I'm hoping you're going to say how much money he wasted on something that didn't work, because that's the thing I always do is I go, this is going to work. Trust me. I'll put like $10,000 into it, and I go, I'll do it a couple more months, and then I'll learn my lesson. Is that the kind of thing, Bob, that we're looking at?
Well, the biggest thing is people are afraid to fail. They're afraid to try something, so they just don't do anything, which in the long run is real failure. So, and that's one of the things I had problems with is, I don't want to do this because I might fail at it.
You mean in the business, in the coaching side of things? I would think the coaching side of things would be the harder part because it's kind of like when you coach a ball player and you say they've got so much potential and they don't reach it. People always put the blame on the player, but some of the coaching has to do with it too, right? So they point the finger and go, well, that person said they could do this, right?
Sure.
They could fix this.
Yeah.
That's where I'd see the real heat.
Yeah, there's heat there, but also just owning your own business. It's hard to own your own business, and you have to make decisions almost on a daily basis that impact where you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, if you're going to have food on the table. So, and people are afraid to make major decisions because they're afraid they're going to fail.
Right.
So,
Well, let's talk about your first business, because I didn't even know you had another business. I thought you were just like a life coach for the last 40 years. Not that you look that old. I mean, Ryan looks that old. You don't look that old. But if you looked at when you started that business, you have like a really unique story of what you like you made your own thing, right? So
Well,
explain that.
No, I worked for a company for over 25 years.
And you stole their technology.
Well, not stole.
That's kind of like how the Terminator started. But go ahead.
They taught me how to make these, what they were called thermocouples, which measure high temperature in furnaces. And it got to the point where management came in and they made a decision that it was no longer part of their core business plan. And so me and my business partner, the person who I had been working with at this company for years, we just sat down and we said, well, if it's not part of their core business plan, it's our core business plan. And so we started our own business.
But how did you start it? Do you have existing customers, or do you have to knock on doors? Because that doesn't seem like you can sell books door to door. I don't think thermocoupling is
Well, hold on.
something.
First of all,
Yeah.
what is thermocoupling?
Thermocouples are a device that you stick inside of a furnace, and it'll measure the temperature that's inside the furnace.
Hmm.
Now everybody has a thermocouple in their home
Okay.
because it controls by the thermostat.
Gotcha.
It's connected to the thermostat. So in an industrial application, it's like on a computer, it'll hook up to the computer, and the computer will be able to see what the temperature is. And they can control the furnace that way. They can change the voltage, or
So based on the temperature reading, other things can take place that need to cool it down or
yes,
heat it up, things,
exactly,
whatever. Yeah. Gotcha.
Add more power to
And
the
you
power.
had that's what you started a business that sells those
Yeah.
products.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that is such a niche. That is literally, I don't sell electricity. I sell the switch that turns the light on. Like I'm nervous right now for you, and I know you've done it for 12 years. But I was thinking, how did you build that business up to exist for 12?
Well, like, is that a competitive market? I mean, is there other people that sell those?
Oh,
or is it kind of
absolutely.
like, hey,
It's-
you have
yeah.
to have this, and we're the ones to get it from?
Yeah. That was one of the things that we really struggled with, is do we want to get into this market, because it is competitive. And so we sat back and we really did our due diligence, looked at the market, and we said, okay, our niche is in the real high temperature process. So the normal low temperature thermocouples, we just said, okay, it's way too competitive. We don't want to do that. We don't want to get into that competition. So we just stayed on the high end. And when I say high end, I'm talking about 1,000 degrees up to 2,000 degrees.
So you found your niche
Yep.
within a niche.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
But where does that come from? Did you do? You said you do your due diligence. Did you kind of dig into this and like get spreadsheets out, or how did you know? Because perfect example, when we were doing the show, Ryan is like the brains of the show, and I'm just kind of driving it, right?
Sure.
So we have to play off each other. When you have a partner in something, they have to balance you out. So one person's more the financial guy, and the other guy is kind of, I'm going to knock on doors and sell this thing. Is
Right.
that kind of how it worked? Because
Yeah,
you had to pick
yeah.
a partner based that way, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My business partner, she's as I tease her, she's the CFO. She's the one that holds all the purse strings. She says yay or nay to a lot of things just because of the cost. And I was the one doing the entrepreneurial thing, going, hey, let's do this.
You're the C mofo.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So you've done that, and then one of the things, because again, for months now, I've heard you talking about this, and you just brought up the 12-year business, and I thought, well, how did you even get into business coaching? Now, I know about life coaching from Ryan.
Okay.
And we'll let him have the microphone at least once a show where he takes us down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But explain how you decided, you said you want to do this full time. You
Yep.
want to be a business and life coach full time.
Yep.
Based on what? I don't mean that to be in a bad way, but you're starting another business again.
Oh, absolutely.
And
it's the entrepreneur coming out.
Right, and for the people on the radio, you're over 30. So
Yeah.
let's just say that's fair. So you're going to
Twice.
start that from scratch again.
Yeah.
What is the compulsion to do that?
I see such a gap in leadership. There is a lack of leadership in the generation coming up behind me. And I want to get out there and say, you can do this. There are people out there, it's like you said before, you see that batter and you see the potential in them, and you go, oh man, I want to help them get to the next level. Okay, that's where I see kids today who have a tremendous amount of potential, but they don't realize it. and they're afraid to take that step. So that's what I want to do.
So we have a saying in the success industry that the fear keeps you here.
Yeah.
And so many people, and that's so true. So what you're saying is, so many people are afraid to take that step. You know, hey, you got a great swing. You need to get out there and really have a confidence and use that swing.
Yeah.
And they're scared to get in the batter's box.
You got it.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
And so you see that potential, and you have a passion within you to take them, help them, and guide them.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
Well, my question was, because you, Ryan, as a life coach, I mean, he Freedom Windows, cheap plug there, but he has Freedom Windows, but he also is a life coach. How, when you started doing this, it was a personal thing for you, like you wanted to kind of give back, like you wanted to help other people that were struggling, because you, not so much struggled, but you were struggling to find your way in terms of what your passion was, right?
Well, I call it the teacher in you, and I remember running these companies years ago when I was living out in LA, and I would find one person who wasn't good at something, and then I'd put them in charge of it, because in order for them to be in charge of it, you have to learn about it, and so you have to be very good at it if you're in charge of it. For instance, if I'm really curious about the law of attraction that you always hear me talk about, you know, what better way to learn about it than put myself in front of an audience and have to talk about it. It's like, oh my gosh, I just signed up to speak at an event. Maybe there'll be 12 people, maybe there'll be 40 people, who knows, but I'm going to stand up in front of all these people and talk about a subject that I'm interested in, but I'm in no way a professional. And this is how it kind of started. And so talk about the fear keeping you here, that was scary as heck, because not only am I talking about something that's a lot of people, it affects their core belief systems, but it's also very scientific. There's a lot into it. And so here I am going, if I'm going to get up in front of these people, I better know what the heck I'm talking about. And so what did I do? I read every book. I started learning and researching. I'm on the internet. I'm on YouTube. I'm just all over the place. I'm reaching out to other professionals that, you know, I think are the best on this subject. I'm learning from them. Why? Because I wanted to give that information to somebody else, because I felt it so truthful to myself. So that's why I call it the teacher in you. If there's something that you're not good at it, teach it to somebody else, because you can't give it if you don't have it.
Right.
And so that's why I always say that the more you give, the more you receive. So that's the teacher in you. So for me, life coaching, business coaching, all that kind of stuff started from the desire to have it and hold it within. And I knew I couldn't give it to somebody unless I first had it.
Right.
That's where it all started, yeah.
You mentioned the law of attraction.
Mhm.
Where did you learn that from?
Well,
This show.
Michael told me all about it. No, I mean, so where I first learned it, I think in an innate way, we've always been working with it and using it. It's just whether we're consciously aware of it, right? So that's a whole nother story. But I would say, I think it would have been probably 2003 or 2004 when I first heard the term from Neil Donald Walsh in some of his teachings. And then I was really like, what is that law? Law of what? And I started kind of investigating it.
I don't care who answers this question, but one of you, in case someone doesn't know what it is, because I realize we say it a lot, and I don't think we define what it is. So you guys can tackle, what is the law of attraction?
If you want a style of person, it doesn't make any difference what type of person you are. That's the type of person you're going to attract. It's just that law of attraction. If you want to be outgoing, you know, if that's what you desire, then that's what you're going to get. You're going to get that person that's outgoing.
I think that's accurate. I think a more scientific approach to it. If you look at like the law of gravity, what goes up must come down is a real simple way to look at the law
Or like
of
a
gravity.
yin and yang.
Yeah, so I'd say the law of attraction would simply be what is like is attracted to itself. So it's all based on energy and vibration. So if you have a certain feeling, your feeling is, everything is energy. It's all frequency. And so when you have a certain thought or feeling or emotion, is what I always like to say, that's the best way, because we experience things through emotion. You're feeling good, you're feeling bad, negative, positive, happy, sad. There's all kinds of different labels that we give to the certain emotions so we can kind of comprehend what it is that we're actually feeling. But at the end of the day, it all breaks down to positive or negative. So if you're in a very positive emotional state of being, the law of attraction says simply that other like forces or like energies will be attracted to that. So if you are feeling very positive, which isn't easy to do in a negative world, you got to really work hard to feel positive. But if you can consciously and put a lot of work into feeling positive, the rest of I always like to say the universe will magically rearrange itself to put other positive scenarios and circumstances and people into your life.
Well, let's break it down the opposite way. It's the same person that says, nothing ever works out for me.
Right.
And they start their day off that way. They spill coffee on themselves. They get a cancellation at work for an order or whatever. It seems to snowball.
Right.
It's snowballing because you're gestating that the entire time when you wake up, and it never stops. So if your conclusion is this day's going to be terrible, it will be terrible.
Sure.
Right? But if we're looking in a sales or entrepreneurial side, it is hard to be positive, because it is hard to run a business, to start a business, first of all, and to, whether it's the people you're working with or the people that work for you, if you set the tone and you're positive, you can handle things. If you're negative, it will bleed out on everybody else, and it will really ruin your results. But I'm not the life coach. I just read a book. But Bob, if you're looking at it and you're saying younger people, you said something a few weeks ago about leadership, that there are these people that are going to school and they don't know what they're going to school for. They're just doing because right. So we don't have enough tradespeople in the world, but we don't have enough leaders that are coming out because people aren't making things with their hands anymore, right?
Oh, but there's a huge gap in the trades. Yeah.
But they're also not getting stepped on a work site. They're not getting put in their place. They're not being taught things. They're going through the motions, going to school, and school is kind of like a big feel-goodery, like, just take any class you want. Like, I have a liberal arts degree, which qualifies me to literally do this show and nothing else. And I'm 40-some years old. So I had to kind of make my way in the world, but I wasn't raised that way. I was raised by people that did trades. So I had the best of both worlds. Today, it's not like that, right? So you've got to identify what's wrong with these younger kids or younger business owners and kind of coach them up, right?
Well, and I want to go back to what you said about leadership, okay? Just because you're not the owner of the business doesn't mean you're not a leader. You can be a leader in the middle of the pack. And that's the biggest misconception that people have right now about leadership. If you want to have a company that's great, let's say you're working for somebody in the trades, and does that mean you can't be a leader? Well, that means you're a prime candidate for a leader, because that person who's in charge of that business is looking for you, is looking for a person like that to go up to the next step, the next level, because they need people to help them. The law of attraction. Another thing about that, look at it as a scale from 1 to 10. Okay, and ones are the ones that they're the Eeyores of the world. Everybody's going to crap on me and all this stuff.
He's a donkey. It's not a real donkey, Ryan. I know you might not have read this book. Eeyore is a donkey. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay.
He's a sad.
He's a sad donkey.
He's a sad
He's
donkey.
a pessimistic donkey.
Yeah. And then you have 10s. 10s walk in the first thing in the morning, and they're just ready to go.
They're rhinoceroses.
Yeah.
They're charging.
They're charging.
Rhinoceros.
Okay? When you're a 1, you're not going to attract a 10. Okay? You're going to attract a bunch of 1s. Okay?
Well, as they say, birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want 10s in your business, you better be a 10. Or you're not going to get it. Now you'll attract from 1 to 10, but if you're a 5, you're not going to attract a 10.
Okay, and I agree with everything you said, except the Eeyore thing. But how does a 5, let's use that system, I like this. How does a 5 get to be an 8? Right? They've got to get somewhere, right? You can't do the same repetitive stuff in business or your personal life and it gets better. You just stay, if you're maintaining that, you're never getting up.
Yep. That's a great question.
Well, I asked great questions.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. How do you get better with anything in life? You have to learn. It's a learning process. You have to grow.
You have to hire Bob.
Well, that's the second part of the show. Don't get ahead.
You have to learn every day. Every day is a learning experience. If you don't go through the day and learn something, the day was a waste. Why did you even wake up? Why'd you get out of bed? I mean, you have to take that next step to learn something to grow.
And your goal as a business or life coach would be to help that person learn,
Absolutely.
or point them in the right directions for them to learn.
Yeah. Point them in the right direction. That's a good way to put it. It's like when you're coaching that person in the batter's box. Okay, you can't swing that bat for them, but you can tell them, okay, hey, next time do this.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just think that it's interesting when we do. Everybody likes to use scale. I always do that, whether it's a movie or whatever. It's like a scale of 1 to 10. Now I might change what 10 is. 10 could be the best or the worst, but you do see a lot of people, especially in bigger organizations, that they start to feel like they're being left out. And there's a lot of talent that I think gets left on the sidelines.
Absolutely.
Because they might be 8, 9, 10 people. Like, for example, I don't think Ryan could ever work for anybody ever again. He could do his own thing. But if a company could get Ryan to work there, it would drastically change results because he's a very positive person.
I was just going to say, I can tell you right now, if somebody were to hire Ryan, I can feel the energy, and he
Bob,
would
don't
bring
lie.
a positive.
We're about to go to commercial and you're lying.
He
So
would
they call
bring a
vibes.
positive energy into the business.
Right, but that's the thing is,
If anyone's
he's-
out there's hiring.
yeah, there's a Wendy's right down
Yeah,
on
that's right.
Riverside.
Hey,
But when you look at somebody like that, you say, how could a company let someone like him get away? It's not just that he left. I don't want to say he didn't leave in a huff. He kept moving it like he was outgrowing it. Companies are missing out on people like a Ryan or like a Jim who's running this show because they don't look at what they have.
Yeah.
They are looking at how they fit in a box.
Yeah.
And a lot of leadership and life skills are being wasted because people don't realize that if they would just tap into that thing that they're afraid of and give it a shot, you don't have to work for somebody else. Being an entrepreneur is not about being fearless. It's about operating through that fear. But it's not, there's times when I text Ryan about something at 11 o'clock at night and I'm like, I can't even say the words I want to say, but this is a messed up situation. I'm not asking him to bail me out. I want his opinion. Or I'll do the same with Rachel. Here's what we're doing, here's the update, and here's the good and here's the bad. But I'm doing that because I get better through the people that I'm associating with, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is your law of attraction in play.
Sure.
But there's a reason why Ryan's here. Because I need to take a drink. But also, he provides something on the other end, right? The reason we bring all these other people in is not so Ryan can sell them a window. It's so that we're learning from the people that come in here as well.
Yep.
So
Another thing you were talking about, why would somebody let Ryan go? If Ryan's a 10 and the owner of the business is a 7, they may feel intimidated by Ryan.
right.
And they may say, oh, I don't want him around. He brings too much energy that I don't want to be around.
well, I always joke about saying, the best way to aggravate a negative person is to be positive.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
if we're going to use number scales, whatever, just think of it as, somebody out there's wants to be around. Misery attracts, or I should say misery likes misery. Misery likes, people love to hang around and gossip with other people, like to gossip. If someone walks into my house and starts gossiping, so to speak, I might say, hey, not on this property, not in this house. And now they're going to be either conform to that, or they're going to be like, I don't really like hanging out with him. Why? Because he doesn't gossip. They're not going to say it that way, but that's what they're feeling.
Right.
So, I always say you raise the bar and other people will meet you there, or they won't.
Right. We have to take a break, but I want to get into more of you, Bob, like how you structure your coaching and who are the best people for that. But before we go to break, I just want to say I'm an 11. You're listening to the 101 brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. We'll be right back.
I wanted so badly to talk about Donald Trump's ratings.
He is a 42. Well, that sounds pretty good. Like if you say 42, but if it's out of 100.
Well,
Rachel, what was the thing I
he
said to you?
gives, He gives
What?
women
That you're an
numbers.
8
Yeah,
out of
yeah.
80.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody made a comment to her, and she was like all down in the dumps. I was like, Rachel, to me, you're an 8. And she was like, and I said, out of 80. And she went, all the wind went out. It was my favorite moment.
But Rachel, you're a 10.
Oh, big bird.
Okay, bird.
I do know, based on that conversation, I'm probably a 2.5 or a 3. And I realize that I own it. And I'm okay with that.
Jesus, Jim. Go on.
This is where
One
I
of the
fit in.
things- one of the things is to realize where you're
Yeah,
at.
I realize where I'm at.
So if Jim doubled his efforts, he could be a 5 to a 5.5.
That's right.
Exactly.
I mean,
Maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit. Maybe I'm a 4,
I know.
3.5.
That's the greatest thing.
My mother'd be about a 9. She's a very positive thinker. I didn't get that from her. My dad
can
was
tell you
my
that 'cause
dad
you
was
just
a
said
pretty
it.
positive thinker, which leads me to believe I was adopted.
Could have been.
My parents are amazing, and I'm terrible. I was adopted.
That's right.
Exactly.
You know the greatest parents, me. What are you doing?
I didn't say it was terrible. I just realized where I am.
Well, I give you a 10 for honesty.
I realized
That
it.
is true. You're a 10 somewhere, Jimmy, and it's honesty is your thing.
Absolutely.
Is there somewhere specific you want to go? Because I just want to get
Quote of
into
the
like
day.
the actual how you break down.
3.5.
Like if you had an example of somebody, you know, like you had Jerry Hunt, and you're like, Jerry, you're a waste of time, and all of a sudden Jerry recovers because of you. Can we just say Jerry Hunt?
The only thing I'd really like to bring up is the whole, you mentioned the law of attraction. John Maxwell wrote the 21 Laws
Sure.
of Leadership. Okay, and that's,
Let's do that.
yeah.
Okay.
I would love
I just want to make sure we're doing,
Yeah.
you know, that you're talking about what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go into John Maxwell.
Yep.
And make sure you hit your website if you've got a website for your business.
I don't have a website.
Oh, everybody's got a website.
I know. I'm
Wow.
looking for a web designer at this point. So.
I'll give you a card when you leave. I'll
Okay.
give you a card. My brother-in-law is very good at that.
We know a
You can
bunch of
talk to
people.
him.
Okay.
Michael knows a lot of people.
Well, I'm
but,
saying, Jimmy, I'm just saying in this building, if you need something done like that, there's somebody, Jim knows probably
Yeah.
10,000 people.
and I know my brother-in-law is very good at that.
Awesome.
He knows computers backwards and forwards, inside and out, hardware and software.
Hey, we're networking.
He's like a 3.
This is the best networking. All right,
No,
Jimmy,
when
are
it
you
comes
ready?
to computers, my brother-in-law is 100 out of 1 to 10. We ready?
Yeah. Welcome back to the 101, brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. It's still Michael Morris, still Ryan Brown, and still our buddy Bob Gray. Bob, we're not going to give out websites today, but I want you to give some tips today, okay? One of the things I've heard you talk about is John Maxwell, and I believe it's his 21 Laws. Ryan is Googling them right now. Actually, Ryan's looking at Windows, I think. But what I'm curious about is that Ryan has different methods in how he coaches people, but he's not. His life coaching kind of, I think, touches on. I don't want to speak for him, but it touches on more who you are as a person, and then your business kind of gets involved there. Talk to me from a coaching method of you talking to a small business owner or consulting them, not so much the person. Or can you do that? Can you take the person out of the equation?
No, you really can't take the person out of the equation.
Well, let me make
The
a note
person's-
about that.
The person is part of the equation. I mean, what would the business be without the person?
That is true.
Yeah. So the person is part of the business. No, my mentor for the last 30 plus years has been John Maxwell. He is a fascinating individual. He has written over 80 books. He's right here from Central Ohio. He was born and raised in Circleville. He was a pastor's son. He was a pastor himself. And he pastored a church out in San Diego for over 20 years. He saw the need for leadership training in the business world. And he left his pastorate and started his business now that I am also affiliated with. I'm an executive director with the John Maxwell team. And that gives us a lot of information, a lot of tools that we can use to help people in the coaching.
What I like to add, I think it's really fascinating that, John Maxwell has the 21 Laws of Leadership, which is cool. One of the things I love about laws, and they're one of my, fundamental core beliefs, is into the law of attraction. I'm a certified law of attraction practitioner, and so that is the core foundation of my teaching and coaching. And what I always find fascinating is that Maxwell was a pastor. Well, usually when you're a pastor, that means you represent a certain faith or religion. Well, the one thing I love about the laws, law of attraction, law of gravity, is that it doesn't matter what your faith is. It doesn't matter what your
Denomination.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what part of the planet you're from. It doesn't matter, if you're 10 years old or 100 years old, or if you're smart or not smart, or educated or not educated. These laws are laws, and it's up to you to either work with them, because they're always working 100% of the time.
Yeah.
It's being consciously aware. So from my point of perspective, the way I teach and coach is to help people become aware of, I should say self-aware or conscious, that these, first of all, exist, what they are, and how to work with them. Because, for instance, gravity. How fun is golf knowing how gravity works? We can make golf balls and golf clubs and certain things knowing how to measure gravity, how to work with gravity. And you can't complain either when you understand the laws. For instance, if you fall down the stairs, you don't get up at the bottom of the stairs and say, "Damn you, gravity."
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, you might, but you don't get upset with gravity, because it's not gravity. It just is.
Yeah.
The law of attraction just is. The law of the lid, as the number one law of leadership.
Yeah.
It just is. The law of influence. These things, they just are, and so we can choose to understand them and then work with them. The law of gravity has been around since the beginning of our planet that has gravity. But eventually, at some point, we became aware of it, we learned it, we studied it, and we started to work with it. And that's just how all these other laws are.
I have a story that John likes to tell when he's in a group. He has people, he'll be signing books, and people come up to him and say, "Well, I disagree with you on this one law." And he goes, "That's okay." And he had one guy come up to him and said, "I disagree with this law." And he goes, "That's okay." And the guy just kind of stood there and said, "Did you hear what I said? I disagree with that one law." John goes, "That's fine. You can disagree with it. Doesn't make it untrue."
Right.
But, it's like the law of gravity. You can disagree with the law of gravity, but, try to jump
Welcome
off
to
a
Earth.
building and see what happens. So-
Well, I will, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
I know that Maxwell is something that would you call yourself a practitioner of that? Is that a
Yes.
fair way to say it?
Yeah.
So, if somebody gets a hold of you, that's the other part. Let's back up. How do people find you? Is it by going to networking groups? Is it by putting yourself out there? Because this is a business. I mean, you are trying to help people, but how do you operate this business when? I can tell you right now that whenever I've talked about, or someone will ask about something we said on the show when we're doing it on Facebook Live, or something that Ryan said about like business coaching, life coaching, and the first people to tell me, "I don't like what he said," or blah blah blah, like they're not super critical. It's like, I don't agree with that, like you just said.
Yeah.
They're the most miserable people in the world.
Absolutely.
And the whole time I'm like, why are you calling me, number one, because you're already ruining my day, and number two, did you even read what he's got certifications, he's studied,
right.
And you just heard something on a radio show that you should probably be working during the middle of the day, that you're upset about what he said. And it's almost like someone has to feel that pain to then react.
Right.
There has to be some kind of hole in you that makes you want to fix it.
Yes.
How are they finding you? I know how they're finding Ryan because he does these cool little videos, but you don't seem to be the video guy. Again, you seem like you're over 30, not going to say anything else, but how do people find out that you're a business and life coach?
Right now, the best way to reach me is through my phone number, my cell phone number. That's the best way to reach me.
Do you want to give that out on the radio?
But I think what Michael's saying is, how would people know how
Right.
to call you?
Yeah, not
Yeah.
how to contact
Right.
you this moment, but
Right.
how do they know you exist?
It's basically through word of mouth at this point.
So referral based.
Referral based.
So
Yeah.
it's- yeah.
And I'm also on, again, if you go to the John Maxwell website, I am one of the executive
I
directors.
was just about
on
to
it.
say, if you're part of
Yeah.
a certain coaching organization,
Yes.
they'll
Yeah.
feed you clientele and
Yeah.
things like that. Sure.
Yeah. You can do a search.
Because that's one of the things, if you're a business success coach or a life coach or a fitness trainer or whatever sort of coach you are, a wrestling coach, you have to have some sort of, you don't have to, I suppose, but typically you go to some sort of school to get some sort of education to be a good coach. And there's different philosophies. You can meet 5 different baseball coaches and they may have 5 different ways to swing a baseball bat. You can meet 5 different life coaches and they all have different philosophies, different backgrounds and ways to teach it. And John C. Maxwell obviously is one way, and clearly proven to be a successful way.
Yeah.
So that's where you went to get your studies and,
Yes.
and be a good coach.
Yep.
Sure. So and then through that organization, people find John C. Maxwell online, and then they may say, "Well, I'd like to have a John C. Maxwell type coach,"
Yep.
and that's where they would find you.
Yep. That's
Gotcha.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So these 21 laws, I'm quoting that right.
Yes.
21.
21 irrefutable laws of leadership.
Well, I'm not going to remember all that, but these 21 laws that are established, is this kind of like your, like you have to memorize all of these things so you could say, like if this is not an elevator pitch, you couldn't get them all out at one time.
No.
But you have to understand them, right,
Oh,
to be able to
absolutely.
break them down, because I haven't seen them, and I should have done my research, but
Sure.
I was next door doing an anesthesia spot with a new client. But when you are looking at these, like, do you kind of have to break these down like one by one, like weekly for somebody, or how do you go through? Because that's a lot of information at one time.
That's one of the things that I offer is a what they call mastermind, where there will be a group of people that will take the book and read it, and then they will sit around on a table and discuss it, what they've learned. One of the things that helps people learn is not just reading a book and then trying to apply it, but reading a book and talking to other people. What did they learn? Because you may learn something in the book that I don't learn. And so when we share things, when we get around a table and we start talking about it, a lot of things can happen.
It's like in our Western culture, you know, obviously Christianity is really big, and people would go to a church, and you don't sit down and just read the Bible cover to cover. You may specifically focus on some verses or a paragraph or a story from biblical, you know, teachings, and then you would go to study groups and study that and work on that story or biblical teaching with others and discuss what it means and the perspectives and how to apply it to your life. And he's basically saying that with the teachings for John C. Maxwell and a book such as the 21 Laws of Leadership, then you know, you'd have a study guide or mastermind group, and you could sit down and go through it and, hey, let's talk about the law of respect.
Absolutely.
What's that really mean? How does that apply? How can we work on that in our own business setting or in our relationships at home or whatever it may be?
Yeah.
And that's powerful, because it's one thing to just read it and go, oh, that sounds good. It's another thing to say, okay, well, what's it really mean? Why is it a law? Can it be disproven? Because a lot of times things are laws because they can't be disproven, you know, or they haven't yet been disproven, so therefore it just is. It's a law. And so that's why it's fun to discuss with other, you know, like-minded people that all have the same, I guess, the same goal in mind, which is personal growth, leadership success.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a person, I'm thinking of people that are in our BNI group, because I don't think they quite I think they get what you're doing, but everybody thinks that's not for me. It's kind of like therapy. A lot of people think, yeah, that's cool for other people. And meanwhile, they're like murdering people on the weekends, but they don't seek to get better. And I see that when you're talking, there are people that are like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But they don't ever jump on it.
Right.
Are there people, who's the perfect person to get business and life coaching?
Who's the perfect person?
Yeah. Like
Somebody-
if you had to pick somebody, you walk into the
Somebody
Waffle
who
House.
is breathing.
Yeah,
Well, I'm just
exactly.
saying, like, if I walked in the Waffle House, I'd say everybody here. But if I was,
A desire to learn. That's the key person. Who, you know, the average person just exists in today's world. They just get up, they go to work, to a workplace that they don't like, and they go home. And then they live around a bunch of people they may not like, they may like, you know. But then there are those who really want to do something. They want to be, quote, successful. And that's where that
Zig
person
Ziglar
comes in.
called the people that would just wander around the wandering generalities. They're just kind of bumping around through life, and then the people who really kind of wake up, so to speak, and go, hey, I think there's more to this experience, and I want more. Those are the ones that you would call a raving fan. They're excited about life. They're excited to wake up, and you can really split a lot of people into those two categories. And I think what you're saying is you look for, because you know, we all have those people that come to our door and knock on our door and say, hey, have you heard this? And you're like, you came to me, I'm not coming to you. And it's really hard as a success coach to reach out to somebody and say, you need success in your life, you
Right.
need personal growth, let me help you. And they're like, no, I'm perfectly happy with Xbox. And so, you know, you can't seek to change somebody unless they want to be changed.
Absolutely, because I've tried it that way. I've tried to go to people, say, you know, you really need to do this. If they have no desire,
But you can't check
just-
you can't check into rehab.
Yeah.
You can't check somebody else into rehab. I think you have
Right.
to literally
they
check
have to be
yourself in.
complicit.
Yeah.
Well, that is true. I mean, you can't make somebody want it.
Yeah.
You know, but how frustrating for both of you. I'm gonna start with Bob. Is it? It's got to be frustrating to see people that you know you could help and they just won't They won't listen. They won't take the time. And the way I would look at it is it's wasted potential.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of times we'll go to a meeting, and I learned this recently, that no matter how, if somebody's a really, let's say, medium to big size client, doesn't matter if you can save them money, if you can do more than anybody else, none of that, because there's no pain involved, right? So it doesn't matter. There's no motivation. If they're not motivated, they're not going to do anything. It's got to be the same way when you guys find a person. I can think of somebody right now, Ryan, that's been on this show, that literally his life is falling down a staircase full of nails, and he's not going to reach out to say a word to you because he's going to be prideful and doesn't think anything's wrong, right? You've got to look at those people and say, I would be willing to put my hand out and help you out.
So here's the thing. There's another, speaking of laws, there's a law called the law of allowing. The law of allowing is allowing others to exist as they choose to exist. And there's a lot to be learned from that, in the sense of, I'll see somebody bumping around, falling down that stairs of nails, so to speak, family members, people that I really care for and love, and I want to reach out. But what's the point of reaching out when they're not going to reach back? So you allow them, because at a much deeper, greater, grandest level of observation and of knowing that they need to go through certain things in order to learn certain things. We all do. And so part of me doesn't want to interject, because that's the law of allowing. If I interject and stop somebody from falling down the stairs, they may not get hurt to realize that they shouldn't have fallen down the stairs and the whole experience that gave them. So you got to smile through that pain, as they say. That's why when you see somebody who does finally reach out, there was that one movie where the aliens were taking over the world or whatever, Earth. Oh man, Independence Day. I think the big quote.
How did I know he's going to say Independence Day?
We're on the same frequency.
I'm more
right
impressed
now.
that we have a vibe going than I knew he was going to say Independence Day.
But what's that quote at the end of the movie? It goes, "At the brink of destruction comes great change." And it's kind of like the person who was a complete alcoholic going through life just, being a train wreck and running over people and everything. But then one day they just drop the can of beer and never touch a drop of alcohol the rest of their life. Not because they went to some, 12-step program, but because they had this epiphany or this awakening, so to speak. And that is so powerful, because it happens when it's supposed to happen. You have to know that everything is perfect. And I think as a good life coach, you are teaching everybody through your own actions, but through anyone you interact with, that, hey, even though you don't think you're doing right now, or you're where you're supposed to be, trust me, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And you're going to look back one day and you're going to go, aha, that had to happen, this had to happen. But Rascal Flatts said, God bless the broken road. It's all perfect. It's all in perfect order. And the law of allowing, if you really study that, you'll go, wow, that's amazing. And it's fun.
I heard just this morning that a majority of the billionaires that are out there today at one point were broke. And it wasn't until they realized that where they were and that they needed to make a change, that's when it made a difference.
And that's what's so great about life is in being a business owner, or wherever you are right now, that point A, you have choice. Our greatest free will as a human being is choice. And so for anyone to take a choice away from you, that's fine. Someone can take you and put you in a box somewhere, but you still have the freedom to think whatever thought that you want. And based on the way you think, how you feel kind of follows that. And that's our choice that's given to us from our birth. And nobody can take away your freedom to think. They can try. But at the end of the day, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, when you wake up and your feet hit the floor and when you're stepping out of bed, you have a choice right there that you can make on how the day is going to go. And you can set that intention and you can choose how you're going to feel, how you're going to think, and all these wonderful things. And we all know that. I always tell people, I'm not going to teach you anything you don't already know. My goal is to reawaken you or remind you of all that's already within you. Yeah. And that's where success happens, because it's already there. How do we bring that out of you?
Well, one of the things that you guys are doing, what I think the best story is, it's not the success story, it's the redemption story. It's that guy that's a 4 or 5 with 9 or 10 ability.
Karate Kid.
Right.
Well, what I was thinking about was Josh Hamilton. Do you remember Josh Hamilton?
The figure skater?
Yes, he has beautiful gams.
No, but that's Scott Hamilton.
Yeah, totally different guy.
Got the wrong Hamilton.
That guy loves Campbell's soup, though. Josh Hamilton was either number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft, and the number 1 or 2 pick after him was Josh Beckett. I can't remember the order. He got in a car accident. Like, he's this phenom. He's drafted by Tampa Bay. Gets in a car accident in a new truck that he buys with his baseball bonus. Then all the rehab and stuff, gets addicted to pills. And then starts drinking with pills, then doing cocaine. And he was a story of, like, whatever happened to that guy. 5-6 years later, the Cubs give him a chance, sign him, and lose him to the Reds because of a waiver pickup. The Reds get him, and he's doing phenomenal in this short period of time, and then another player on the team doesn't like him. So he gets sent out to Texas, where you think this is over. And he's set until this past week. The all-time home run record in the home run derby. He had the greatest upswing of the story. But do you know what he had with him all along the way from the time he got with the Cubs till he retired with the Angels? He had a coach that traveled just with him. It was a coach brought on by the teams just to be with him for accountability, make sure he was okay. He's a very religious guy, so they would do, Bible readings. But he had a coach with him at all times because he had the talent, but he had to give himself up and say, I need your help. And that's the thing that I think a life coach or business coach, I'm looking at it from the business side, not the personal side.
Right.
Because if you're not willing to put in the time to fix yourself, that's your own
Well,
problem.
just like we said earlier, you can't take the person out of
Right.
business.
Right.
It's all hand in hand.
But when I'm looking at people that they're having failing businesses, they forget that there's somebody out there that either they've done it before or the best practices will always win and they can help you. That's why I think it's cool what you guys do. I don't have the patience for that because my thing would be like, dude, you've got to get this now. Like, understand 21 laws here, read the stuff.
Why is your business filling?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Because you're
I'm
an
gonna-
idiot.
Is this a check or credit card? Like, I just want to move on.
Yeah.
But when you guys are doing this,
You
especially
could use a
Bob,
patience coach.
I literally
Yeah,
need that.
yeah.
I need someone to teach me
I know a
patience.
guy.
Bob is not going to be you. I'm not going to go through 21 laws. When you're coaching people now, what is the average age of the person that you're coaching?
Oh,
Because Ryan's more the millennial generation, right? No, not millennial. It's Gen X.
millennials are
That 35 to 45, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when it comes to the laws, it's a lot of they consider it new age. So I think everybody can kind of get on that train, but actually a lot of the younger generation, I don't know what generation it would be as far as a classification, but the 20s and 30s.
My parents say
Yeah.
it's the terrible generation, so we'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, the younger I find that somebody is, and this doesn't always hold true, but generally speaking, the younger the person, the more open-minded they are. And what I mean by open-minded is they're willing to listen to something that maybe they didn't hear about in school or in church.
Yeah.
So it's more alternative teaching. When I sit here and say, hey, I'm going to base my teachings off of universal laws or the law of attraction, etc., that can instantly turn somebody off because we're scared of things we don't understand. So if I'm already talking to you about something you don't understand, you're like, hey, I'm good. I don't know, this guy's like talking about Star Trek stuff or something, I don't know. But if you are open-minded and you say, hey, listen, I'm open-minded, I want to be successful, and I'm going to surrender to you, so to speak, then they can really open their mind to learn everything that's out there and apply it. So anybody, really any age, but some of the younger generation I found are a little bit more open-minded than maybe trying to teach my grandma who's 91 about something. She goes, oh, that's hogwash. And I go, okay, you're right.
And then she smacks you. And
Yeah,
sends
then
you
she
on your
smacks
way.
me and says, go clean up your room or something. Yeah.
Bob, when you're not getting smacked, when you're coaching people, what are you seeing? It seems to be your focus is more on a younger generation, but you're kind of coaching all levels of people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Where are you seeing the most success?
Most success would be in the younger people. They're more open. They're more willing to try things. Yeah.
That's what I
Once
was
they
gonna
get
say.
past that fear.
Well, you should have said it when I asked you earlier. Go on, Bob.
Once they get past that fear, of failing, okay, and they realize that when they fail, they can learn something from that, and then they can go on to the next step.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Are they coming to you from their parents, or they're coming to you because they recognize there's a need there?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Do most of your anybody you work with, is it mostly online or workshop situation, or do you actually meet one-on-one?
more workshop one-on-one
Okay.
type thing. Yeah.
Explain the workshop format.
It's the
Is that like when you go to marriage counseling? Let me tell you, if you can go to marriage counseling thing, you should go. The rooms are nice, the food is great. Your marriage will end, but you should definitely go because I've done that before, and it was 100% failure. But is that how it works? It's kind of like a format where you're kind of in groups to do this?
Yeah, it's like I talked about masterminds before. You
Right.
get around a table and you just talk. You talk about the topics that you need to talk about.
Oh, isn't that the thing that's coming up in October?
That's something else I want to talk about, but yes.
Well,
that-
you should do it now. We're on a radio show.
Okay.
You should talk about it.
Yeah, the thing that's coming up in October is called Live to Lead. Okay, and it's an opportunity for you, number one, to get to see John Maxwell. It's going to be a simulcast, and he's going to be speaking once, maybe twice during this half-day seminar, and then he's got some other people speaking that time too. So, awesome opportunity to network, to meet people in different operations in different ways, different businesses that are out there. So yeah, it's a
And
great.
that is when again?
It's
What's it called? It's called Live
to Lead. Yeah,
And it's
you
in
can go
October.
onto their website. It's called Live, the number 2, and Lead, and it'll talk about where the different simulcasts are going to be. And I am partnering with a guy up in the Dublin area and it'll be at the golf course of Dublin, not Muirfield. There's another place called the golf course.
Yeah, I was
Golf
gonna say
Club
they're
of
not gonna
Dublin.
let your kind over there.
That's right. Yeah.
You better be one of those golfers. You wouldn't be up
Yeah.
there.
But
Or somebody that likes to drink. Either way.
it's going to be an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, you've been pretty thrilled. You've been talking about this a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you
you pay for
really
the tickets.
Yeah,
I have a
absolutely.
question. So, Bob, has John Maxwell been somebody that affected you personally and changed your life and your experience, and that's
Yeah.
why you decided? So he was your mentor,
Yeah.
and then you said, "Look, this has changed my life so much. I want to give that back to others."
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I see that a lot with. I have a lot of friends that are personal trainers, and they're in the fitness world, and they were, 300 plus pounds, and they were eating Twinkies and just, and I say it that
A
way.
good life.
I say it literally. They were like, I look back at pictures of myself or the life that I was living and how I felt. I wasn't gonna live till 45 the way my lifestyle was. They got a personal trainer. They were so inspired by the way that they were coached or whoever their mentor was, drastically changed their entire environment, their life, their whole experience here on Earth. And they said, wow, look at me now. I'm living my best life. I want to become a fitness professional to give that back to others so they can have the same experience I've had. And it sounds like kind of the same idea for you.
Yep.
I wouldn't look at old pictures. My hair, coach, that's what I need because I got the Golden Girls haircut going on. It's all gray and white.
I feel like you need a Flowbee.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, just one
Well,
time.
if we can get one entrepreneur that has a storefront that has Flobies, we're bringing them in here.
My brother-in-law has a Flowbee.
Why do I not doubt that?
I feel like you have one too.
No, I don't.
Yeah, everyone live. No, I've never used that
That's
thing.
right,
Why is
no.
it in your trunk?
Oh, it's a
Bob,
vacuum.
before we leave, tell
Yeah.
people one more time because we don't know when we're going to see you again. Tell them one more time about the event, and then throw your name out there so people can get on the Facebook, get on the LinkedIn, right? They can find
Right.
you there.
Yep.
Talk about Live to Lead one more time.
Okay, Live to Lead will be October 11th in the morning. It'll be a half-day seminar. John Maxwell will be speaking, and it's going to be a phenomenal time. Like I said, just go to the website. It's Live, number 2, Lead, and they'll direct you. Just put in the Dublin zip code, and you'll get the site and all that information. So we're good.
Fantastic. Rhino, before we leave, any children's books, anything else recommended
No,
reading?
I think we talked a lot today about emotions and energy and vibes
All
and
my
all that good
favorite
stuff.
things.
So I think that the one thing I can just put out there real quick is that we all have an IQ, and unfortunately we're kind of stuck with that. But our emotional IQ, our emotional intelligence, is something that each and every one of us can raise. We can learn emotionally, and that will affect your life more so than anything else that you could ever do. So emotional
Well
intelligence.
done. I felt like I had 2 Ryans on. But I had the past and present, let's put it that way. Bob, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
And Ryan, thanks for coming in again. As always, you're listening to 101, brought to you by Whiteside Chrysler Dodge Jeep. We'll see you next week.